In this video we are going to talk about some improvements to the IIS server in Windows Server 2012. So the two new features that you saw in the title are also new features in Windows Server 2012, and these have been introduced because Microsoft marketed Windows Server 2012 as a cloud-ready OS, and they did a lot of improvements in storage, in virtualization, in networking, and so on. But they needed to also add some stuff for application creation, mainly for web apps. So these two new features that we are discussing today are for the IIS web server. Let's first talk about the server name indicator. In the past, in Windows Server 2008 and below, to use more than one SSL website on a server, you needed to have one IP address per site, because you could not use two HTTPS sites on the same address and port combination. And this would become too difficult to manage when you had a lot of websites. Now in 2012 we have SNI, which will permit you to use more than one website on the same IP and port combination, because in the mix will come also the host name. And when I say the host name, I'm talking about the name that you use to access a specific website. So let's say that maybe you have a server named Web Server 1, and you have on it two websites, site 1 and site 2. Now with the same IP address, you could generate a certificate named site 1 and a certificate named site 2, and IIS would know which website you want based on the address that you provide in the address tab. One more cool thing about SNI is that now it is able to load SSL certificates on demand. In the past, when you would access a website, IIS would load all certificates on the server in RAM together. And for servers with a lot of websites, this would become a problem. Now each certificate is loaded on demand as the website is being accessed, so it's much better. The second improvement, the Central SSL Certificate Store, is simply just a centralized store. You create a file share in which you put all the certificates you have, let's say, in your environment. Then you point all of your web servers to that share, and when someone is accessing a specific website, the web server will take the certificate that is assigned to that site from the share. This way, for example, if you have a web farm, you do not have to import the same certificate on all your web servers. Each web server will have access to it through the SMB share. So let's go ahead and configure SNI and the SSL store, and mostly we will do this using Powershell. The first thing I want to do on my domain controller is to create a user that will have access to the file share for the certificates. Let's go here, and I will create also an OU. So it's a little organized. And of course I forgot about the complexity. The user is created. I also want to create free free DNS entries for the websites that we will be creating, and I will name them Web 1, Web 2 and Web 3. So we want to create an alias, and the alias will point to a web server that I will use named Web01. And the last thing I will do is create a share for the certificates directly on this domain controller. Of course, in a real environment, I recommend you use maybe a highly available file share on a cluster, but in this case, it's only for testing, it should be okay. The folder is SSL Store. Let's modify the security. I don't want inheritance anymore. I don't need users. I don't need system. I just need administrators, and I need our newly created user. To have only read permissions. And let's share this folder. SSL Store, let's hide the share, put $1 at the end. Everyone is okay with read, and I will add also the administrators of I'm crazy, let's say the administrator account with full control. I was thinking of a normal server with local administrators group at first. So now my administrator can place certificates here through the share, and the special user can read the certificates. Now I am on my certificate services machine, but you can use for the next steps whatever server from the environment you want. I just chose to use this machine because it's convenient to me. And what I will be doing is I will generate free certificates for our free websites that we will be making. First we need to request the certificates. You see I wrote here. Then we will export those certificates. So then let's open an MMC console. Let's add the certificates snapping. This is what we need at the moment. Using the computer account, please. The local computer is fine. And now we will request the free certificates here. All tasks, request new certificate. And if you saw my last video, you will see how to install the certificate services. If you are wondering how we got this far to this step. We want web intranet, also as we did in the last video. And I want to, subject name, I want to use the DNS. web1.testcorp.com and enroll. It was enrolled successfully. So I will do this for the two other websites and I'll come back after I'm done. And we are done. The free certificates are here. Now we have to export them with their private keys. So all tasks, export. We want also the private key. The default is okay. And I would recommend you set also a password. And of course the same password needs to be used for all free certificates. Now let's place this certificate somewhere. And for each one you have to use this name, so web1, web2 and web3.testcorp.com. I will export the other two certificates and come back when I'm done. And here's the result. The free certificates have been exported. Let's copy them to the share. And we need to navigate to it. The name is not correct. I wanted SSL store. It's SLL store. What can you do? This is what I get for not including this part in the script. But it works, it's okay, no problem. So the certificates are in the store, and one thing I want to do on the certificate authority machine, just for consistency's sake, I want to permanently remove the certificates from this server because we don't need them anymore. We only need them in the share. So to remove the certificates, also with the private keys, we have to use a couple of commands. First is the dir command on the certificate, on the local certificate store, which you can see here. Now we need to do the following thing. We need to run this command with the thumbprints that we have here, and I'm pretty sure the first thumbprint belongs to a certificate that we did the last video, so we don't need this. So let's put the thumbprint in this placeholder. And now we can delete it using this key container name. And of course we can also delete the certificate, the public key part of the certificate that we see in our MMC console. And here you go, we deleted it. And we need to do of course this for the other two thumbprints, and we will have our certificates deleted from this server. And now we can move on to the final part, the actual web server part. So I'm on my web server, which actually right now is only a normal server without any feature. So let's install the web server role. And besides the web server role, we need also the web cert provider feature, which actually is the feature that lets us connect to our SMB share for centralized certificates. And with this extra feature installed, we can go ahead and connect to our certificate store. It is located on DCO1. It's named, unfortunately, incorrectly by me. User 100 is the username with the read access. The password for it is password, and the private key password that I set to the free certificates is pass. So this should work now. It worked. And also the settings for the centralized store can be found in this registry path. Before I go on, I just want to check quickly in the IIS console that everything worked. And it's not that interesting. We just need to check the centralized certificates if we see the free certificates that we have. Unfortunately, I did not use also a name, so I can easily identify them with a nice name, but the file name is good enough for me. So then let's set up our sites folder. Let's create a central folder for our sites and the free website folders that we will be creating. And now in each folder, let's create an index.html file with some specific text that we will place. And this will be the text for each site. So then we go in C, in sites, and for web 1. Let's first activate the possibility to see extensions for files. It will be much more easier. So index.html. Let's open it with Notepad. And this will be site 1. This will be site 2. And this will be, of course, site 3. So now we have a unique way to identify the sites that we navigate directly on Internet Explorer. So then, with the files in place, we can now create the free websites, and we only need to use some basic parameters. For each site we will use a different name, of course. All of them are on port 443 and will use the server's IP address. The host header for each of the site will be the actual site address, which will also correspond to the certificate name for each site. The physical path is the folders that we created. It should use SSL, so it should be HTTPS. And this is the magic. SSL flags free means that we turn on server name indication that we talked about at the beginning of the video. Let's create the free sites. All of them are started, and we will connect to them from a different server just to make sure that everything is set up correctly. Okay, so now let's try our websites. First, web 1. And here is site 1 on web 1, and the certificate is correctly obtained. Let's move on to web 2. And let's also try web 3, but it seems to be working. Here's also web 3. And you see that based only on the host name, the web server could go to the SMB share and find the correct certificate. And we have just combined two new features to work together, mainly the SSL store and also the SNI. If you liked the video, then please like and share. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps a lot. And I'll see you in the next video.